and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go, this 5 o'clock hour. Cowboys training camp starts in less than a month. Just saying that tickles my fancy in a way. I mean, just the fact that it was like later in the summer, but it's less than a month. Big 12 Media Days, the 14th and 15th at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, and we're joined by David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. We love talking to David about many things. Cowboys. Wow.
I think that should be your open every time, David. You announce your presence with authority.
That's not a little itty bitty dog. That was not.
No, that's my neighbor's very big, very angry dog. Hey, y'all, how's it going?
Is that a Saint? That's not a Saint Bernards aren't angry, are they, Paul?
They could be.
Is that like a Doberman or something? What was that?
I think he's a mutt, but yeah, he's a big attack dog looking kind of guy. I try to keep a wide berth of him.
Well, it sounds like he was in like your laundry room inside your house. Okay, David Hellman with us. David, less than a month, Cowboys training camp. Let's say you have the first question at the training camp opening press conference with Steven, Jerry, and maybe even Mike McCarthy's allowed to talk as well, and Rich Dalrymple running the show. First question, what is it?
Oh, wow. Good question that I don't have a ready-made answer for. I'd probably ask them what they think a realistic expectation is for this team. Obviously it's always going to be Super Bowl talk with the Cowboys, but everybody knows they haven't pulled that off in a quarter century. So, they're coming off one of their worst seasons in the last 15, 20 years. So, what do they hope to accomplish? What do they think they can accomplish?
David, you guys did a column on a question and answer thing on the site about day two picks that you expect to contribute the most. Who did you pick and why?
I went with Osa Odigizua because I think he's got the clearest path to a starting role or at least playing significant snaps. Obviously, I guess the counter to that is that Kelvin Joseph was drafted in the top 50, but I've been doing this a long time. It's hard to unseat established veterans in the lineup. I mean, it's unless you're a top 15 pick, it's not always common to see a guy just come in and grab a starting role as a rookie right away. But then you look at the defensive tackle depth chart, and I mean, and obviously, defensive linemen rotate more than defensive backs do as well. But there's just not that much proven depth on that line. So, Osa Odigizua, for all the hype about Neville Gallimore, he was drafted higher than Neville Gallimore. So if he lives up to that draft stock, I can certainly imagine him having, a pretty substantial role from the get-go.
Who's a player that's maybe not receiving enough hype?
Who do I think is a player that's not receiving enough hype?
Yeah.
Maybe. Ooh, geez. These are good questions today, guys. I guess I may. Well, and I mean, we talk about them a lot, but I'm really. That's the thing. Like when you talk about this team, 365 days a year, I feel like I covered just about everything. But I'm really excited about Randy Gregory's potential, and he's slept on from a national perspective for a very good reason. He's missed 60 games over the course of his career, but he's had a full off season for the first time in 7 years. He's fully healthy. He's, I expect him to be completely available for the entire schedule for one of the only times in his career. And if he can tap into that potential, I think he has the potential to make himself a household name in the NFL, which is exciting.
If he does, and he reaches what you hear all these positive vibes, and hope it for Randy Gregory, he has been able to get everything in order. Obviously, it's been a long road for him. He was a fantastic player in college as well and shown flashes. Does that make DeMarcus Lawrence even more dangerous or someone else?
I mean, that's the hope. I think obviously it improves everybody on your defensive line if you've got two really quality ends. But that's, I think DeMarcus Lawrence really hasn't been in a position where another team has to key on him in a long time. And I still think he's been more productive than he gets credit for from a lot of people. Not in, obviously the raw sack totals aren't there, but just the production that he brings down in and down out, the win rate, the run stopping ability, the fact that offensive lines have to account for him. So yeah, give me more players who can get DeMarcus Lawrence into one-on-one situations. I think Randy Gregory definitely has the ability to do that if he is available and as productive as we think he can be.
What do you expect to see the offense kind of morph into now that Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy have had a full season together?
I know, Mike McCarthy's an offensive guy and he's going to have his say, but I think of this as Kellen Moore's offense. And, you think of it, this will be what Dak's fourth or fifth year with Kellen serving as his coach, not always the offensive coordinator, but the guy that's working with him and putting game plans together and things like that. I expect it to look very similar to what we've gotten used to the last 2 years. I know they had OTAs and stuff, and that's big for players that you get on-field experience. But Kellen and McCarthy had a chance to work together throughout last year despite COVID. So I don't expect it to be too much of a departure from what we've already gotten used to seeing.
With the new helmet rule, David, do you think it's a given we'll see the old Cowboys like white helmet throwbacks with the stars on the shoulders? Do you think they might get even a little bit more creative? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing I think I just want to make sure people realize is the earliest that they could do that is next season. So the league, the league okayed alternate helmets for teams that have different colored throwbacks and things like that. But that goes into effect. So if you decide to do that, you can't wear them until 2022. So we won't be seeing it this year regardless. But yeah, I absolutely, I have to believe the Cowboys are going to try to take advantage of that. I don't know that for sure, but I do know, the team sells throwbacks right now, even though the actual Cowboys never wear them. So given a chance to actually play games in those and sell even more of those jerseys, I have to believe they would do it. I don't know about anything else though. Like it seems like, and then understandably, the Cowboys look is so iconic. I think they're kind of protective of that brand. I don't think they want to tinker with it just for the sake of it, but I would be pretty surprised if we don't see them go back to wearing throwbacks now that this rule is in place.
Dan Quinn, obviously the new defensive coordinator. Other than him, who's the most important assistant coach on that staff?
New or otherwise? Can it be anybody?
Yeah, anybody.
I would say other than Quinn, I probably Kellen, but since I already mentioned him, I think it's really huge that the Cowboys have Joe Philbin, who's obviously such a long-time experienced offensive mind and also offensive line coach. Obviously the Cowboys' offensive line was a disaster last year, but I do think he deserves a little bit of credit for patching it together with the obscene amount of injuries that they dealt with. And, they were playing much better by the end of the season than they were when all of that happened and all these young guys got thrown into the fire. So to give him, to bring the starters back and give him like a full line full of talented starters to work with, I think there's big potential there for the offensive line to really bounce back in a big way.
When I said at the start of the segment that training camp is less than a month away, did you get goosebumps?
I did. Obviously, we love our jobs, right? It doesn't really give me goosebumps so much as it just makes me take a deep breath and say, okay, yes, I need to be enjoying this time off because it's going to be over before I know it. Last week it was a month till training camp. And by the end of this week, we will be in July. So, I'm going to blink my eyes and I'm going to be on the plane out to California, which I'm certainly not complaining. Like I said, I love my job, but I just know what a beast covering this team is from the start of training camp until the end of the season, whenever that is. So I'm definitely trying to enjoy these last 2 or 3 weeks where there's not very much going on.
I feel the same way you do. I don't know about Craig and Paul, but to me, with Big 12 Media Days in less than, it's 2 weeks away, 2 weeks from tomorrow, right? To me, then, that is almost like the closing of the curtains. It's kind of like here comes football season, even though there's some patches in between. But you're right. It means that there's not much time left to enjoy, so we'll see what happens. David, LSU hired the coach at Arizona. We just had a note. Arizona has lost 12 of their players in the transfer portal in 24 hours.
Yeah, and I know at least 1 or 2 of them are following him to LSU, which is, it's exciting for me. Obviously, that was a team that made it to the World Series. So, I didn't know a lot about Jay Johnson when he got hired, and I looked at his resume and I was kind of nervous because, he's a West Coast guy through and through. He's got no career experience in the SEC or really anywhere other than the West Coast. So, made me a little nervous, but looking at his credentials, he's taken 3 different programs to the tournament. He's taken Arizona to the World Series twice. And yeah, he's got some big time recruits trying to follow him to LSU. So that's a step in the right direction. So I'm feeling pretty good about it.
One other LSU question. There's a young offensive lineman named Daryl Rosenthal who did not play much last year. He was suspended a few times. His name apparently is in the transfer portal. Latest I heard from Mike Scarborough from Tiger Bait is that Ed Argeron and even Scott Woodward are trying to maybe fight to keep him in the program, but he's had some issues with testing, et cetera. Do you remember him much? Was he a part of that national championship team, the offensive lineman?
He was on the roster. He wasn't a starter. He's a highly talented guy. Yeah, it's mainly it's off the field disciplinary things that would probably have him leave if he does leave. He's definitely a talented player. He's a versatile player. He's played a bunch of positions along the line. He was on that team, but yeah, he wasn't a big time starter or anything. But it'll be a blow for LSU's depth if he does leave. But these things tend to happen around this time of year. So I guess we'll just see what happens.
Thank you, man. Thank you, David Hellman. Enjoy.
Thanks,
David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com with us on Tuesdays at 5. Cowboys segments. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, locked in. Wednesday, John Machota. Thursday, Mickey, who's off the next week or two. And the next thing you know, we look up and here comes camp.
Yeah, well, camp can't come fast enough because, there's only so many ways so many things to ask at this point based on how long it's been since the season ended, So it's kind of like unless something like crazy just creeps through the headlines, like somebody decides they, got an injury or aren't going to show up to training camp or something like that. Pretty much everything's signed and sealed and delivered, and it's just waiting on training camp basically.
It's wild how different an off season is where they don't make the playoffs. How much longer it feels for that extra just 2 weeks. They could be in the playoffs for 2 weeks. The week and then that, even if they had the bye week, if they had the bye week, that 2 weeks before they lose their first playoff game, which is what the Cowboys do, before they lose their first playoff game, makes the offensive season feel so much shorter.
There was no coaching change this year, although there were coaching staff changes. Obviously, the Dan Quinn hire. There was the Dak drama that carried on for far too long.
Yeah, but then that ended, and there really was
After
nothing
that
left.
ended, it was oh my God.
You know what happened with the Dak drama was, there was drama that hadn't done it, but at no point was it ever to the, I'm going to leave here or anything drama. So what everybody wanted with Dak was to the Cowboys to have some real drama, and it was more just they were going to haggle until it was over, and then they did it.
Yeah, there was never a doubt in my mind, and I think I conveyed this many times.
Oh, I said it multiple times. He was never going anywhere, and that talk of it was crazy.
It was just talk.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I try not to pour fuel on it. You know what I mean? It's I'm not even going to discuss this because it's so unrealistic. No matter what way the wind is blowing today, Dak Prescott was never not going to be a Cowboy, so it was all just stupid talk. But